This is a reading comprehension passage with a set of 4 questions. Let's look at the first question. Which of the following options best explains the basic flaw of OROP? The first paragraph explains this. The first paragraph says that the basic premise of OROP is inherently flawed. One's pension is inextricably linked to one's salary at the time of retirement and not to the salary of the same post 20 years later. This is why pay commissions every 10 years do not link past pensions with current salaries but provide a percentage growth to those pensions. Now let's look at our options. Option A says it fails to establish the fact that pay commissions bring in a revision of pension every 10 years but do not link it with current salaries. Option B says it does not bring in clarity on whether pension should be determined on pro rata basis or on percentage basis. Both these options are incorrect because the author has said that what needs to be done is that the pensions need to be linked to the salary at the time of retirement, and a percentage increase needs to be done. Now option A and B are both incorrect in this regard. Option A is incorrect because it's supporting the fact that flaw mentioned in the passage, and this is not the flaw itself. Option B is incorrect because the flaw in this scheme is not linked with whether the pension is determined on pro rata or percentage basis, but whether it's determined on the basis of the salary of the past or salary of the present. Option C says it ignores the fact that one's pension is linked with the salary at the time of one's retirement and not at the time of another's retirement, and this is correct because that's what the author is also saying, that the pension is linked to the salary of the time of retirement and not of present salaries. Option D says it is unreasonable because it fails to take into account that OROP is not a reality for employees in any government structure. That's not really the flaw with the scheme. That might be the flaw in the execution of the scheme, but not within the scheme. So, correct answer is option C. Next question says it can be inferred from the passage that option A says the IAS is skilled at bringing in clauses that are exclusive advantage to its officers. This is incorrect because the advantage of OROP is not exclusively to IAS officer, it has also been extended to some military groups. Option B says the top brass of any elite government organization can rightly benefit from the schemes proposed by IAS. Not all scheme or any scheme proposed by IAS will benefit the top brass of any elite government organization, and hence this is also incorrect. Option C says that the IAS was sure of immunity in OROP scheme and hence offered an advantage to the top brass of other All India services. Now why IAS offered it to other All India services is not very clear in the passage. Option D says the IAS bought an advantage for themselves, the OROP, and the top elkins of the armed forces played along. This is correct as because the passage also indicates that IAS did it for themselves and the top elkins of the armed forces were also getting benefited, and they were given this benefit also, so they also played along and they did not object to it. So correct answer will be option D. Next question says, according to the passage, why does OROP for the armed forces have some legitimacy over other forces? Now, option A says that low pension rates that force Jawans and OR to search for employment options after retirement. Now, low pension rates exist and this makes Jawans to search for employment after the retirement, but that does not clarify why OROP is legitimate. The answer to this question is given in the last paragraph. He says that yet there are some aspects of demand for the armed forces that are legitimate and that are peculiar to them, which any sensible government has to consider sympathetically. The primary for me is their early retirement, especially for Jawans and ORs, and subsequent unemployment. So these are the two reasons. First is early retirement and second is subsequent unemployment. So the correct answer should be option B, the lack of employment options, especially for Jawans and ORs who retire early from the force. Next question is, if it is acceptable that demand for OROP is not practically possible, then which of the following options would serve as the best solution? The central theme of the passage is on the understanding why OROP cannot be provided to armed forces and other All India services. The last two lines of the penultimate paragraph indicate that OROP is not feasible, especially because of the financial burden it will create. If every government employee would be given salaries and pensions in accordance to the present salaries, then it will create a huge burden on the government, and hence it's not practically feasible to give it to everybody. The author suggests in the second, third, fourth, fifth paragraph that providing OROP benefit to apex scale was incorrect decision because it was a biased decision. Option A says abolish the OROP benefit for everyone at the apex scale and bring them at par with other government pensioners. This will create a just and unbiased scenario for pension. So option A can be correct. Option B says introduce higher pay scales for armed forces personnel so they can avail of saving schemes during their government employment. This does not really affect the logic behind OROP at all, and it leaves the onus of saving and future income on the employees and not really on the government. Option C is incorrect because it goes against the argument in the passage itself. It says that provide employment reservation only for Jawans to compensate for weakness of a Miosh pension. But this might not be true, as some few other members of the government sector might also be in need of this. Option D is incorrect because there is no clarity or on perks and benefits after time, and they may be monetary, they may not be monetary, and may not actually be compensatory enough of for monetary benefits that pension usually provides. So the correct answer here will be option A.